Back then I was working in a big bank and was joining the forces to change and to build open banking, starting from the scratch on the vision on PowerPoints, bringing it into the reality of today. And during that journey, I really saw what can be made possible with open banking. And that's what really caught my passion and sparked my interest. So a few years back, I was living and working in Germany. Then I wanted to move back home to Sweden again. I had the same employer, the same bank, the same everything. I just switched countries. When I came back to Sweden again, I tried to get a credit card, but I couldn't because they didn't see that I had any credit history in Sweden. And when I didn't have any credit history in Sweden, I wasn't eligible to get a credit card, even though I had credit cards in Germany and I was managing those well. And my problem back then was that as I didn't have access to open banking, my credit data, my transaction data was stuck and my credit history was stuck in Germany. So I couldn't transfer that when I moved from Germany into Sweden again. If I'd had the access to open banking back then, the bank that I was working for and where I wanted to get a credit card could have gotten my transaction data from my bank account in Germany on my request and then move that into the Swedish system, and it would have enabled me to get my credit card in a very fast and efficient and automated manner. The most intriguing part about open banking is the possibility it enables that you can connect one-to-many instead of point-to-point, one-to-one. So the work that you're creating in setting up a point-to-point integration and a connection instead of speaking to many at the same time, that was really what caught my attention and the curiosity, because that's when you're able to work with it from a platform theory kind of perspective. At that time I was reading a book called The Platform Revolution, management literature, and it really caught my attention and made me see the possibilities that open banking would enable. I think the biggest differences are in the focuses, core focus on the customers, on creating customer value, on creating customer benefits, the dynamics, how fast we are growing, how fast we are changing behaviors, habits, and enabling new services. And it's a very big shift from going from the bank into a startup. I think it's been very, very nicely said by a colleague of mine that what you plan for in the morning is not necessarily where you end up in the afternoon. The dynamics are very, very fast and they're changing very fast. I think that the biggest change from moving to banking into fintech is that I'm on a daily basis creating value for customers, for partners, and for users. That's been a big shift from how I was working before. Obviously, it's a lot faster when you move from a big bank into a small fintech. If I have one idea today, I can execute on that idea tomorrow. And if I want to do something next week, I'm executing on it during next week. When we see a customer demand, we can act on it immediately and not wait for next year. I think one of the biggest differences is how I went from a place where there is a process for everything, and there is even a process for how to set up a process, into a startup where there are absolutely no processes at all. And when there are no processes, you need to figure out a way fast to solve problems, and then to make sure that these problems can be solved continuously. And you set up processes when there are recurring challenges, not for the first challenge. So processes only when you need processes and not because you need to set up a process. One of the initial biggest challenges was that nobody knew about enable banking. Nobody had ever heard about enable banking. And starting to speak about it and starting to share stories around it, and then starting to create content around it in order to create visibility, in order to create the feeling that this is a brand that we know and that we trust. That's been an interesting challenge and an interesting journey throughout the last year. Just do it. Simply just do it. It's an industry that is consisting of brilliant people. It's an industry that is growing fast. It's an industry where there is a strong future ahead of us. So reach out, write me, call me, have a chat. I have a lot of interesting notes to share around that one.